All right, looks like we are live. Number 5, baby. You know, who knew I had the stamina? And it seems like we're live on Instagram as well. Right? I'm decking out my new studio, and I'll say you won't know that it's complete, but maybe once we get, these curtains are hideous. I'm aware. Let me know if you hear any ambient noise. But yeah, I am happy to be. Okay, I am live on YouTube. I'm happy to be back 5 days in a row. Andrew S., good to see you again. Hello. Ocean Birth is here in chatters. Thanks for coming to the live. For those of you who don't know, the occasion, 5 days in a row, and we're going to do probably, I think, 38 days in a row, and then we're going to live stream the conference. But Intact Global is hosting its first conference in Portland, Oregon, right? March 29 to 31. And at the end of the conference, we are going to be suing the state of Oregon on equal protection constitutional grounds. And the long and short of it is, in Oregon and 41 other states in the United States, they protect baby girls from genital cutting, medically unnecessary genital cutting, which is great. At the same time, those states have constitutional provisions that require equal protection under the law. I'm sure you've heard that before. Typically references the 14th Amendment of the federal Constitution, but every state has their own constitution. Most of them have an Equal Rights Amendment or a provision essentially stating you can't discriminate on the basis of sex. Only men can sign contracts. Only women can drive cars. Not that that's, Saudi Arabia does the opposite, but that wouldn't pass constitutional muster, right? And so, very simple argument. Look, you can't just protect one class of children from medically unnecessary genital cutting. And we're looking to get some judicial declaration or recognition of this. And so at the end of the conference, we'll be actually suing Oregon. The conference will be 2 full days. A lot of leading and activists there. Exactly 8 attorneys are giving presentations, although that may be more by the time the conference goes live. We have the president of GALDEF, Tim Hammond, the president of Intaction, Tony Lasquato, a few other key activists giving speeches. It's all going to be professionally filmed and edited. There's going to be a beautiful reception at the Sentinel Hotel, which is like one of Portland's nicest hotels. Not like expensive like Ritz-Carlton, expensive for the sake of being expensive, kind of like Marriott Hilton level price, but classier and better. I know because I got my butt on a plane and went to Portland from Los Angeles and checked out 10 different venues with the lead videographer and our lead volunteer in Oregon. So, I got a boots on the ground, right? Like this is the right place. It's got the right feel, both in person and, remotely. So, hey, looks like Paul, you're back. Happy to see you again, buddy. I know you didn't email me yet, and that's okay because I've been working nonstop. Peter Adler is absolutely here. Hello, Peter. Great to see you. Me and him work on both the Oregon case and other cases as well. I got a text from one of our great supporters. Take care of yourself. The conference looks great, which is good. Take care of yourself. That's did I say something wrong? My apologies. So anyway, the first 10 minutes are crucial for the algorithm, making sure that you don't say anything wrong. So, you'll have to text me what it was that what unwritten rule I crossed. I've been trying to be pretty above board here. So do any states support that? No, so no states support it, but there's a difference between supporting something and outlawing it, right? Like, I don't know what states are one of the 9 states that don't outlaw it, but just because it's not expressly illegal doesn't mean you support it, right? And even Oregon, when they outlawed FGM, they essentially said, it's already illegal, but this is a statement of our values, right? Another question. Yeah, Andrew. So anyway, so Paul, hey, babe, what is the philosophy behind the term? Is it used legally? I'm not sure exactly what that means. Give Peter Adler his flowers. He has done so much I would love to do that. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Um, but if Peter Adler wanted flowers, I would give it to him. I think he wants us to stop cutting children at birth and cutting off parts of their bodies. I think that would make him much happier. Although, we do what we got to do. So, how was your relationship with your parents today? And what is their opinion on my activism? That's a great question. My mom was always like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense," and I didn't know, right? And then, obviously, I did a 2-hour play at Harvard, expressing my discontent with my Jewish father and the debate or dispute, let's say, the really emotionally involved dispute. And we're all on the same page now. My family doesn't cut their children at birth, right? But it took a lot of, let's say, persistence from me, and also just, if you're exposed to this topic for an extended period of time, you have to be like really, really, really low IQ to maintain a pro-circumcision stance, right? We're talking like amputating off parts of people's bodies, right? The children, vulnerable individuals, sensitive parts that are important. I mean, it makes no sense. And then also there's tons of complications, and babies have died from this as well. It's not like, anyway. So yeah, they're on board. They're not like on the front lines, but that's okay because, they don't have to be. Okay, Paul, you've rephrased your question. Does the legal case use the term mutilation, or does it use the term cutting? Well, that's a great question, and I'll leave these comments up while I address them. So mutilation is, you could argue it's inflammatory. It's got negative connotations, obviously. Cutting is very neutral, and, they're both accurate. But if you're coming from a pro-circumcision stance, you can't really say, oh, it's not cutting, right? Of course it's cutting. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Now, mutilation, that's kind of a judgment value, right? Now, if you look up the definition, and we can look up the definition, then it essentially means to maim, to injure, probably scarring, disfigurement. So obviously that falls squarely in what the euphemism of circumcision is. But, so I think we use both terms, but mostly cutting because it's more of a neutral, like, look, just like if we look at the facts, we don't get all emotionally worked up about this. It has no place in the 21st century. We have to protect children from this. And in fact, children have a constitutional right to equal protection. But the reason it's taken so long is it takes a considerable moving effort to get this off the ground, right? You need attorneys who are very good at what they do. You need the resources to pursue this. You need the time, the energy, the skills, the network, right? And so me and the rest of us at Intact Global, and those of us who are attending the conference and getting on the front lines, we are the front lines. We are making history here, right? And so if this is an important movement to you, how do we stop the genital cutting of children, right? How do we put this to an end, right? Well, what I would recommend you do is get your ticket, right? Go to Intact Global /conference right there, and get your tickets, because right now we're actually selling a fair number of tickets, and I think the Founders Dinner is almost sold out too. I have to sum up the tickets, but we're having great numbers, and I'm very pleased about that. And it's gonna look great, it's gonna feel great, and it's gonna be fun, right? So again, if this is something that you're passionate about, probably are if you're joining us on the live stream, especially 5 days in a row. Go to intact.global/conference, get your ticket, because right now, not all of the add-ons may be available in a week or two if we keep selling tickets at this pace, which is great. I'm like really stoked. And honestly, this is going to be a historic moment in this movement to protect children from genital cutting. And this movement is not a localized movement. It has affected in a deeply negative way over 100 million American men, right? This is something that is central to our identity and our culture, and in like the worst possible way, which is why it continues, because it's very difficult to address. It's like, okay, how do we address this without kind of destroying our confidence in our medical system or media. And the reality is we're going to do some serious damage to it, but it is what it is. Boys, well, yes, it's damaged 100 million boys and men. So anyway, so yeah, get your ticket. Just taking a look at some comments here. I know they pick up as we go, and then it's like, okay, well, we're an hour in and we got 45 comments left. It's like, you know, it's not going to happen. I've been working like, you know, I was to say a maniac, but I do work incredible hours at the law firm, and I need to take the night off. Like, this is an early night, ending at 7:30 p.m., just live stream with all you, which is great. And I hope to meet you in person at the conference in Portland, Oregon. But yeah, so anyway, hee-haw, we call him hee-haw, great name. The term female genital mutilation is the official medical term from the WHO. Well, that is very telling. It is a statement of, you know, it is essentially putting a judgment value on female circumcision, right? Because if the WHO started calling male circumcision male genital mutilation, then, you know, that would stop the practice real quick. But you have to look where the money's coming from. Who's giving the money to essentially combat FGM or to do research to try to correlate male circumcision with, you know, minor prophylactic health benefits, you know, damn the functions of the foreskin, right? And it's men who are cut, right? Whether it be culturally, I mean, religious is a type of culture. But yeah, so anyway, how would you suggest bringing up this topic to parents who support circumcision? Well, you know, when we're talking parents, we're talking expectant parents or parents who already cut their children, because, you know, there's two different levels of urgency, right? Because, you know, when I was like starting to get aware of the problem, there's definitely at least one parent I didn't inform, and I should have, and I'm like, oh, and I regret that to this day, but it is what it is. So if they're having a child, then you know, it's worth being like, you know, a little more assertive, we could say, a little more forceful in the communication. Look, I got to tell you this. You need to know this. You need to watch, let's say, you know, My Play at Harvard or American Circumcision or Elephant in the Hospital. You say, look, I'll even watch it with you. We're going to sit down and watch this together, right? I have some friends who've done that many times with My Play because, you know, who's got 2 hours? And the reality is, most of us, but we pick our media carefully. Anyway, so if it's someone who's about to have a child, you know, you want to be like, you know, it's important. It's a time-sensitive issue. If they only have daughters or they already cut their son, you know, it's something like, you know, have you ever thought it was weird that like our society cuts off part of, you know, baby boys' bodies at birth, see what they say? You know, do you know what the functions of the foreskin are? That's a good question. And if they're pro-circumcision, they're going to say no. Then you can kind of talk about it. Did you know it's the most sensitive part, you know, of the body, or of the penis and the body, that, you know, it contributes to sexual intercourse and all the good stuff, right? So that's one way. I mean, it's not a perfect answer. So, Andrew, I've seen worse forms of male circumcision called subincision from Aboriginal, and subincision is the male equivalent to FGM type 2. Yes, the Aborigines in Australia, they have, you know, they have like, I don't know. I studied abroad in Australia, and we always talked about how great the Aboriginal culture was. You know, every single part of their medicine was eucalyptus leaves, right? And so anyway, which, you know, whatever. But what I really took issue with is that a lot of them circumcised, and some of them, they didn't just, cut off 50% of the skin on the penis, but they also like would cut down the middle of the shaft. And so I don't even understand how it functions after. And, you know, my liberal professor, and, you know, I'm a liberal person as well, but to an extent, would be like, oh, look how great these cultures are. I'm like, yo, these cultures are straight up violently abusing their children. They are, you know, obviously, you know, not that the Anglo culture that took over is perfect either, but so yeah, there's definitely more extreme forms of male genital cutting than American circumcision. or the Jewish circumcision, which it comes from, but it's pretty high up there, right? Giving someone their flowers is Black gay slang for giving a person respect for their contributions. Oh, okay. Not I'm too let's say levels removed from that. But definitely, no, Peter is, I mean, I work with him pretty much on a daily basis, right? And so I have great respect for him. And yeah, he's a great litigator, both in the intactivist and non-intactivist world. So, and also legal researcher. And it comes from an underground ballroom culture. Are there different tiers of tickets? What about accommodations? Yes. So talking about the conference, which is why we're here. So right now we're still selling early bird tickets, which, are essentially, I think, below cost. And they come with an Intact Global t-shirt of whatever size, a hat, and a canvas bag. That's actually pretty nice. I don't have it in my immediate vicinity. So I would recommend, if you're going to get a ticket, get one now, because, as soon as I think we get over 60, we're going to just charge the full 300. And in terms of accommodations, the whole conference, or not the whole conference, but the presentations are going to be at the Sentinel Hotel in Portland. And we have a room block at the Sentinel. I would highly recommend staying at the Sentinel. It's a very nice hotel. You also get like about 20% off. The $29 a night amenity fee is waived. And so if you go to the intact.global/conference page, there's a link for the room block. So yeah, if you stay in the room block for Intact Global at the Sentinel, you get your ticket on that page, you're good to go. And then there are different tiers. You could get a founder's dinner ticket, which is priced over the cost as a fundraiser for Intact Global to identify other people who have like real resources, who want to push this forward, and other leaders of the movement. Then we also have a champagne cruise, which again, TBD, how many people want to go celebrate after we have our press conference in the Courtyard Square. I'm definitely one of those people, right? I'm the one who organized that. At the same time, if we have 20 people, we may not. If we have 40, then it's worth renting the boat, and we'll have a good time. Either way, it's going to be a historic lawsuit. It's going to be a very important step in the, this is essentially the beginning of our legal challenges, and these legal challenges are going to prevail. I can't promise, Oregon definitely, although it has pretty good chances, and it's a great state to start. But, once we sue Oregon, we're going to sue a whole bunch of other places. So, and male genital cutting is not going to survive the millennial generation. I promise you that. There are no individuals who feel as passionately as me or others in the pro-circumcision who will also have any credibility. You have to be a total hack to be supporting medically unnecessary surgeries and bodily amputations on infants, right? So anyway, I hope that answers your question, Paul. Happy to discuss more. 455 Buick, happy to have you back. And Alan, good evening, Klopper and all. Klopper, I was wondering how you decided to choose Oregon as your state to sue on this issue, and what support and pushback you've experienced there. Thanks. So that's a great question. Love that type of question. So when I was working at my old law firm where I learned to litigate, I had my own website, and essentially we're saying, look, here's the theory, the equal protection theory that we're going to sue on. And we identified 6 states, right, that would be good places to start, which is a combination. So you need 2 things: an anti-FGM law and a constitutional provision that prohibits sex-based discrimination. Because an anti-FGM law discriminates on the basis of sex. It's literally in the name. You cannot generally mutilate females, but baby boys do, carte blanche, no anesthesia, whatever you want, which is totally messed up. But so you need those 2 things. Not every state has those 2 things. Only 41 states have an anti-FGM law, and then a subsection of those states have an equal rights amendment or provision in their constitution. And so that probably gets you down, I'm not sure, probably 30 or so. And then we wanted a state that passed their anti-FGM law in the 90s or early 2000s, right? Because if they did, that means we want a plaintiff who was born after that anti-FGM law. See, I was born in 92. No state in the US had an anti-FGM law at that time. So, would I love to be a plaintiff? Sure. And maybe if we sue Massachusetts, but I'm not going to be the lead plaintiff because the lead plaintiff needs to have been circumcised after the anti-FGM law was enacted. Because if he was circumcised before, the lawsuit could plausibly be dismissed on the technicality. Look, you were not harmed by the passing of the anti-FGM law because you were circumcised well before the law was passed. So, no matter what that law contained, your harm would not have been averted, right? You didn't suffer harm from that discrimination. And standing a reason to sue is a requirement for all lawsuits. And every state has a different statutory scheme. Some give you standing if you're harmed by a discriminatory statute, like Oregon, right? So Oregon had an anti-FGM law that had been passed about 24 or 5 years ago. It had a equal rights requirement in its constitution. It also has a low circumcision rate, which is helpful, and it also has defunded circumcision for Medicaid. And it also just has a particular resonance. I feel very good about the state. I've met people from Oregon, both who are from there natively and also who moved there. They're all against circumcision. How do you think Oregon was landed on? Well, Oregon found me, right? People from Oregon were like, Klopper, you got to do this here. I was like, you find me the plaintiffs, right? Do whatever you need. So that's how we picked it. But again, once we publicize the conference, intact.global/conference, and you should get your ticket, we're going to publicize that all over the internet. We'll probably live stream the whole thing. Everything's going to be professionally filmed. We'll probably have 3 professional videographers there, at least 2. We've got a professional editing company lined up. And we're gonna cut things up and put the whole thing online, and we're gonna get more plaintiffs. We're gonna sue more states. It's gonna be great. So anyway, so that's what's going on. So Andrew S. Well, first off, here's a clickable link for the conference info and tickets. And Paul, I see your comment about volunteers. We'll get to that, but definitely click on this link. I'm not sure whatever channel you may be watching on. And get your ticket today. We're actually getting, a fair number of conference ticket sales, and I'm very stoked about this. So this is an initiative that is working, right? So I'll be here every day, assuming I do not collapse from exhaustion, right? This is not like my only thing. This is, okay, work for 12 to 14 hours a day and then get on the live. But yeah, so get your ticket today. And then in terms of Paul, is there an opportunity to volunteer at the event? If so, who is the organizer and contact? Well, what I'm going to ask, Paul, I'd love for you to volunteer, is why don't you email me at eric@klopper.com or eric@intactglobal.org. And then I will connect you with probably our local volunteers in Oregon, and because we've got at least two guys who are really keyed in there who are helping with local promotions, and we're working on that now. So if you're local to Oregon, that's one thing. If you're not and you fly in, well, you can still help with managing the conference. But in terms of local promotions, I'm not totally sure. Unless you're good at online ads, right? We could do some targeted ads. There's actually a video that I made and I haven't watched yet, and we're going to watch together. I think that would be interesting. I got an email from Descript. It's like an AI video editing platform that I didn't sign up for. But essentially, you can ask it to write a script, and then you can ask it to edit a script, right? And so I have the script for the video that I filmed this weekend to post on my YouTube and other channels to say, look, come to the conference. It's not totally clear more conference promotion than this live stream is needed, but I'm going to do what I can, in the time that we have. And so anyway, if you guys are interested, we could watch the AI generated pitch for the conference that I did this weekend. Oh, look at this, prevail over the system. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm getting pinned in my YouTube notifications. Happy to see you, Pots. So as Andrew was saying, my mom and dad said that my little brother bled super bad from his circumcision, and he was the third born son. So, maybe if it's a terrible thing to say, but if the firstborn son was bled very bad, maybe the second two would be spared. But yeah, complications happen all the time, like heavy bleeding, infections. they cut off more than they're supposed to. And so, every circumcision damages the individual, but it could be like catastrophically damaging, right? So there's different levels of damage. There's all that. And we shouldn't be damaging our kids. So I'm sorry to hear that. But I feel like it's hard to find intactivist people in my area. Most people don't take anti-circumcision seriously, I noticed. Well, it's I hear what you're saying, and it is a very important issue, but it's also a very sensitive issue. And most people, circumcision is like this anomaly, but most people were like, well, we need to talk about penises. There may not be a great reason for it, but here we are protecting children from grievous harm, right? Most people just don't know that circumcision is grievous harm, although in my world, it's very common knowledge. That's because like the people I hang out with know who I am, and they know kind of if I'm this passionate about it, it's probably for a good reason, right? So yeah, it's you can reference people who are like hardcore anti-circumcision. I think like Joe Rogan, he's definitely hardcore. Other people, Alan Cumming, I know. I think Gerard Butler went off on it. I mean, these are celebrities, but there's Christopher Hitchens. Jesus was a big anti-circumcision guy, right? He said, those, I should know this off like Galatians, those who are circumcised, Christ will be of no use to you. And then some inflammatory language about mutilation and dogs and all that. So, Jesus was very anti-circumcision, and this is a Christian nation. So, that's something that might get some traction as well. As Paul says, I'm asking dumb, basic questions about the event so people get the FAQ, and we love that. So again, here's the clickable link for the conference. We're going to go through let's go through the lineup, right? Because I really want people, if you're in the stream and you're like, look, I'm passionate about stopping the genital mutilation of children. It is super wicked and messed up, and I can't believe we're in a timeline where that child sacrifice practice has gotten to 2025, and it drives me crazy that we still cut up our babies at birth, right? So, and beyond just citing celebrities, right? Daniel Tosh did a whole piece, Russell Crowe, Christopher Hitchens, Penn Jillette, you name it. But beyond just like, let's say, spinning our wheels, yes, we're suing the state of Oregon in constitutional litigation, which could really change the law. It could change how circumcision is viewed legally there, could advance the civil rights of children. But let's go through what the conference is about, because this is what I really would like people here to attend. I want you to get your ticket. I want you to go to the conference, meet me, talk about potentially giving a talk, volunteering, helping promote it. I mean, if we get 75 people there, it's going to be great. We have, I'd say, more than half at this point, but we need to sell. I would love to get 2 tickets a day, full house. It's a beautiful, beautiful conference. A lot of people who are very dedicated to this cause, some who have a fair number of resources. And those resources might be monetary. They also could be skills, networks. I mean, this is the place to be if you want to help move this along. So anyway, I'm going to share my, share my screen. You got it. So we are going to, here we go, right here. So this is the conference page, and you can click on it below. And at the conference, it's going to be March 29 to 31. So that is a Saturday through a Monday, right? Because on Monday morning, the court's open, we file the lawsuit, we have our press conference, and then we might even have our champagne cruise, right? Because Portland is on a port. That's not surprising, on a river. And so it will be a historic event as we launch this constitutional challenge. I'm going to talk about how we are going to scale up this litigation effort and, make the fact that we medically, in a medical setting, for no medical reason, mutilate the majority of our baby boys at birth, right? Thankfully, that it's a small majority. It's probably 50, 55%, but it's way too many. 1% is too many. But anyway, so we're going to talk about how we're going to protect all children from genital mutilation. and how we're going to scale up this effort, right? Because, if we sue Oregon, that's great. But if we sue Oregon and we sue Colorado and we sue Delaware and we sue New Hampshire and we sue Texas and we sue Florida and we sue, Michigan and we sue, I probably avoid California for now for reasons we can get into. But, if we start suing many, many states at once, it becomes a national conversation very quickly. And with this administration, there's a lot of opportunity, right? A lot of changes, and that could really benefit this movement that's overdue. So yeah, there's going to be an exciting lineup. So general admission, which you can get over here, the early bird tickets. So you're going to join leading lawyers, activists, and other thought leaders in the movement, like President of GALDEF, President of Intaction, and we're going to be meeting at Portland's storied Sentinel Hotel, which is a very classy hotel with deep history in Portland. It's unique. It's beautiful. It's got a great look and a great feel. I know I went to Portland. I checked out 10 different hotels with my lead videographer and lead volunteer. And so if you it's not like, oh, where's the $200 go? Well, there's going to be 2 nice catered lunches from Jake's Catering, which is like very high-end hotel food. There'll be a reception. I think there should be drinks there, coffee and snacks throughout the weekend. And then, me. And so here's the lineup, right? And subject to minor changes. But I'll start. So we'll network in the morning. For those of you who want to be there, it's going to be an exciting weekend. Meet me, meet the other Intact Global board members, the other leaders of the movement, many other lawyers. And then our Intact Global's treasurer is going to talk about, okay, well, what are the best ways to fund this movement? How are we going to move this forward? Shay Johnson, who's a good friend of mine, lives in the same zip code, actually, in LA. And he used to manage pretty large intactivist groups online. How are we going to bring that in Intact Global? How are we going to, let's say, organize the online support that we have? Because we have, I should say, many millions and millions and millions and millions of people who support us. I would probably say billions, because there's only a small fraction of the world who mutilates their children at birth, right? Excluding the Muslims, and Jews are a very small number, or very small percentage. Americans and Muslims are the 2 big groups who cut their children at birth, right? Might be surprising to hear. But yeah, so Che is going to talk about, okay, well, how do we organize online and grow a community, both online and in person? And then we have Will Wong, who's a brilliant online marketer, did all Intact Global's website, did a great job, including the conference page. So he's just talk, okay, but how's that look in like on the digital battleground, right? Because that's where most things are done. I mean, we're doing a live digitally. No one else is here except my dog who's sleeping, right? And he's an intactivist as well, but he's not very articulate. And then we're gonna have a panel say, okay, Intact Global, what's the plan, right? This is going to be an interactive experience. It's not like, oh, people are going to talk at me for 8 hours. It's like, no, we're going to have TED style talks. We're going to have Q&As. We're going to plan and strategize as a group. How do we scale this effort up, right? Because the litigation equal protection effort, that makes sense. It is a good plan. It is a good plan. So anyway, wow, got some spicy texts coming in. Anyway, and then Saturday afternoon, we have, so as of now, Carter Steinhoff, a friend of mine, has been in this movement for a long time, knows a lot of what's going on. And then we'll have Tim Hammond, the president of GALDEF, talking about what GALDEF does, right? Because Intact Global, we really support equal protection lawsuits. We believe it has a lot of emotional resonance with the public. We should protect all children, independent of sex. We should not discriminate our protections when we are protecting our children, right? What an easy message and mission to get behind. It is so noble and just and true and timely. And so that's what Intact Global does. But there's a lot of different causes of action, which Peter Adler will talk about the next day. But there's a lot of different causes of action and angles that you could take with this movement. And so Tim Hammond's going to be discussing, okay, what are some other ways that his nonprofit GALDEF can support, intactivist lawyers, litigators, other change makers. Then we have a very important guest as well, John Geishiker, who's also a lawyer, but he's also the executive director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision, right? And so he oversees that fairly large group of medical professionals who often weigh in on various legal challenges, saying, here's the medical reason why you should engage in the conservative treatment of not mutilating your infant at birth. And I know it's so obvious, but we need that. We need that voice, because before there was a trade group who promoted circumcision only to the extent that medical insurers should reimburse it, because this is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry of harvesting children's sex organs and then selling them in skin creams and other biomedical products. Right? You got to charge the public purse, Medicaid, to remove it. You charge the public purse to fix all these complications or problems, and then the hospitals and doctors sell the tissue to companies. It's anyway. They don't recommend it anymore. They've backed off on it because it's indefensible. It's a breach of their fiduciary duty. And we have the vast majority of doctors in the world who condemn medically unnecessary genital cutting. And thankfully, we have this very important medical group in America, coalition of medical professionals, saying, stop cutting the children, right? We have Michael Abanika, who's a good friend of mine. I've hosted him at my home in Los Angeles a couple times, and he's from Uganda. And he is a brilliant human rights attorney in Uganda, but also he's building a coalition in various African states and in America. So if you want to help spread intactivism to various parts of the world and vice versa, he's a perfect person to meet, and you're going to meet him there at the conference. So it's another reason to get your ticket, right? Here's the conference link below. You should see click on the link. And so, Michael Abanika is going to talk about his efforts in Africa and Uganda and how we can work together, both in America and Africa, and ideally beyond. Although, America and Africa and the Middle East are really the major genital mutilating nations. Europe doesn't need to be like, hey guys, let's work together. Although many European nations have tried to make it illegal, and America has come down and leaned on them with threats of economic sanctions and false accusations of anti-Semitism and the like, to successfully but temporarily stop those efforts. But don't worry, they will succeed. And if it starts in various states in the U.S., then that's great, right? We are not going to be a monolith of pro-circumcision anymore. We are going to get some states on the board. We're going to flip some states, and we're going to start with Oregon. So anyway. And then we're going to have, and then the Intact Coalition members, and we're going to have another panel, right? And like Tony Lasquato will be on that panel. It's not just Intact Global, but representatives from each of these major groups. How are we going to work together, right? Because Intact Global is one of a few nonprofits who are going to be represented there. Obviously, we'll be heavily represented there, but we want to work together. We want to pool our resources. We want to do what's best for these children, and which is obviously not mutilating them at birth, cutting off parts of their sex organs. It's just, it blows my mind that this has to be done. But internet, this is your movement. It is your time to shine. It is such a timely and just movement. I have confidence that we will succeed. So that's Saturday. And then Sunday, we got a whole bunch of comments that, okay. Yeah, so the conference is 2.5 days, right? So we've got 2 full days, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday we have the press conference in the late morning. And then the champagne cruise in the afternoon, if we go through with that. But and then going back to the conference, so Sunday we have Tony Lasquato, who is the director of Intaction, and he had just done some wonderful work in New Hampshire, because what we see is if you defund circumcision for Medicaid, parents won't cut their children. They just won't do it, right? Because if you have to pay to mutilate your kid, no. I mean, there's the false belief that if Medicaid will pay for it, it's probably healthy, right? And that's a big problem. And so he successfully got the New Hampshire legislature to vote on this, obviously with local support, legislative support. I believe Adrian Soti, her husband, Julia Soti, who's a representative, introduced the bill this time, and I think it's up for a vote imminently. So I'm hoping that goes well. Anyway, getting some dings here. And then the next speaker will be Zenas Barr, who actually filed a challenge to a state anti-FGM law using the 14th Amendment equal protection provision in the 90s. And the problem is you typically can't sue states in federal courts, right? So that right there was a barrier. The culture wasn't ready yet, but he's going to talk about lessons learned. And, I think he's going to be really involved in our litigation efforts, hopefully moving forward, which I really look forward to. And then Peter Adler, who's of counsel to the Klopper law firm, my law firm, and he's published the most in the legal literature of anyone on essentially legal theories that or legal rights that circumcision violates, the right to be left alone, right? The right to essentially trust your doctor that he or she will do what's in your best interest, right? Not breach your fiduciary duty, not commit fraud on Medicaid by billing for a surgery that is not necessary. Almost all, I think Medicaid, Medicare, they have requirements. You only get reimbursed if it's a medically necessary surgery. You cannot prove that an elective cosmetic amputation on a child's sex organ that is done on a small percentage of humans is necessary. Of course it's not. So he'll be talking about giving a more life to the various legal rights that are violated by circumcision. And then we have Brad Kane, who is a great political advisor. He was also where I learned to litigate at the Kane Law Firm. And so he's a good friend, and he has been very supportive of this, and it'll be very interesting to hear what he'll say. But he strongly believes, and I agree with him, that the winning messaging is not circumcision is genital mutilation and, we're mutilating our infants. Not a good look. I mean, it's true, but it just doesn't have the emotional resonance of we want to protect all our children from harm, right? We're not talking about, the specifics, not talking about what type of harm. We don't have to get into like the blood and the particular anatomy that's being amputated. We're just here to protect all children equally. It is such a simple message. It means different things to everybody, but we all agree, right? And then if you actually look at what we're doing, of course, this is harmful. So, and then we have John Silla, who likely is going to talk about parallels between some parts of the LGBTQ movements with his nonprofit, AIB, American Institute of Bisexuality and Interactivism. And then we have Deborah, who emailed me earlier, and her talk, so some of these talks are working titles. Her talk was supposed to be updated today, and it is, I can look it up right now, but it was something along the lines of a challenging, what was it? Oh man, no downtime. But essentially, she grew up in a conservative Jewish household in Los Angeles, and she was more or less, at least passively, okay with circumcision until she really looked into it when she was an adult and realized, oh my God, this is like really harmful to children, including Jewish children in my community. And I'm very passionate about protecting them, and we need to stop this, right? So kudos to her for really making a point to sharing her story. And her title is called Dangers of Cultural Conditioning, right? So we're going to update that on the website as soon as we can. So Dangers of Cultural Conditioning, and she runs her own law firm in Los Angeles as well. And then, we'll do a panel of the lawyers who, that ask questions from all the attendees, and we'll do a little final speech, and we'll call it a day. Then we're going to have a founders dinner for those of you who can essentially afford it, right? It's pretty pricey, but it's for people who want to show, look, I am committed to this. I'm committed in spirit and body and financially, because, the reality is, I don't think it's going to cost that much to end the genital mutilation of children in America, but I still think it's going to cost millions of dollars, right? Because remember, we're going up against billions of dollars of industry. And although we're not tackling the religious part, thousands of years of history, right? So there's a huge mountain against which we're fighting. And I think we can win for 1,000th of the cost, right? Because we're not on equal footing. The opposition's mutilating infants for profit, and we're trying to protect children from harm. We are not, it is an asymmetric position. So we need only a fraction of the resources to prevail, but we still need that fraction of the resources. And that's going to be in the 7-figure range. Now, if the Klopper Law Firm, if we win our trial, late April, early May, we may be done fundraising, baby. So that's the conference, and then a little more details. The founders dinner. So here are the speakers, some headshots, and so the founders dinner we have. It's at the Multnomah Whiskey Library. You should check it out. It's limited to 22 guests, and we're starting to push that right now. We're pretty close. I need to sum it up. So if it's something you want to do, definitely go. If we sell out, I might see if they have a bigger room. But for now, that's really not what we're looking for. And then a champagne brunch which would be Monday afternoon after the lawsuit announcement. And this is going to be in Pioneer Portland Square. We're going to have a podium. We're going to give some speeches. It's going to be epic, right? It's going to be me, some of the other lawyers. Hopefully, I think some of the plaintiffs will actually be there. And then some doctors, ideally some local politicians. And we're going to film it all. We're going to push it out. We're going to live stream it. It's going to be great. And it's going to be the first of many. This is the dry run. So anyway, that is the conference. I appreciate you all sticking with me through that. I'm going to hit up some comments before we go. And then, we'll wrap it up. We don't have to do 80 minutes of this every day. 455, happy to see you again. Vas, do you have anything positive to say towards the stigma associated with the aesthetic of a normal penis? I honestly think a lot of people are pro-cut simply because it's what they're used to seeing. Yeah, well, there's a psychological bias called the familiarity bias that you find people who you see more often more attractive because you're familiar with them, right? I believe that goes to, different body modifications as well. If all you see is cut penis, then you think, oh, well, that's the normal way it is. But so do I have anything positive to say towards the stigma associated? Well, you could say, look, this is the natural body. This is how it's supposed to function. This is how it's supposed to look. And it actually is far more functional, which is not surprising because that's how we evolved. Anyway, there's my buddy Mountain. Hey, Mountain, dance with me. Dance with me. Mountain, dance with me. Come on. You're on live, dude. Mountain, dance with me. Hey, dance with me. Good boy. There he is. This is Mountain, and he is he's actually quite a large dog. He's very nice, but don't break in because he's not always nice. So anyway, so anything positive to say? Well, look, I mean, it's a cultural conditioning. Why do you think they bound feet in China, right? It's hard if you're a fish in water to kind of see that. So anyway, Potts, yo mama, I have no idea. I think Eric wants me to do a fleshy appearance at his conference. But I don't know, that would be up to Eric first off anyways. Yes, I want you there, Potts. See, I think this was a good idea for you, but you don't tell anyone that you're Potts. You're just another activist, right? And then think about all of the sweet gossip and drama you can get. I mean, I don't think it's probably, I don't know, but we're all on the same page. But you could say, look, I was there, and then there's that murmur of oh, Potts was among us. So definitely, I hope you do make it, and that would be interesting. And then I'll guess you should post right, before the conference, say I will be there. And don't lie, because we'll know by your comments afterwards. And then we could all say, oh, was this Potts? Was that Potts? So it'd be funny. So anyway, that's my pitch to you. The Bible quote is from St. Paul. My latest video is of famous intact men. So yeah, definitely check out Ocean Burst channel. She has a lot of great interviews with individuals talking about this. And she's working on, we'll let her tell you about that later, but definitely worth keeping an eye out and checking it out. So anyway, America is not the land of the free when they allow people to get mutilated against their will. Yeah, well, if you don't own your body, what do you own, right? So yeah, it is a horrific violation of rights, and it's really hard to be to call it the land of the free when you literally have the mark of a slave on your body, right? That was originally what it was intended for. Genesis 17, read it. That should get you fired up because, it's not okay. Totally agree, Andrew. So Greg Malchek, his disciples said to him, is circumcision useful or not? He said to them, if it were useful, their father would beget him from their mothers already circumcised. And so that is a quote from the Gospel of Thomas, Christian doctrine, and if you just look at it from a pragmatic point of view, if you're a Christian, you're trying to proselytize, as in recruit other people to religion, it's a really tough sell to be like, look, you should join us, but you have to cut off a big part of your penis to do so. It's like, no, thanks, dude. Not my cup of tea. So that's why Christianity is a lot more popular than Judaism, just on its face, is you don't have to mutilate your penis for it, right? I mean, geez, I can't believe, maybe there may be some smart Jews among, I'm Jew, but still, that's a profoundly stupid thing to do. It's really hard to grasp or respect anyone who believes that makes sense. So Andrew, Greg Malchek and you and Eric Klopper should make a collab video. Well, I could invite you to the stream, right? That could work. Something to think about. Yo mama, I wish intactivist groups would work together. It's so annoying. How can we get anything done when we don't work together? That 100% agree. Well, Intact Global, Intaction, and GalDef, and Doctors Opposing Circumcision are all going to be at the conference. We're working together on this litigation. Well, Intaction, we have spiritual support from, right? And he'll be there talking about what Intaction does. But we're all on great terms. We're all working together. We would love for more intactivist groups to join the coalition, right? No one has to take credit for it. We're all in this for the same purpose. So I totally agree with you, Yo Mama. And if you're part of Saving Our Sons, for example, or Intact America, or Your Whole Baby, or BSM, although I know they're going to be on the East Coast, which kind of was just an unfortunate scheduling conflict. But maybe there may be some on the West Coast who can't make it to the East Coast, but can make it to the conference. So yeah, if you're a member of there's a bunch of local Intact groups, Norm, in Michigan and other places, make it to the conference, because this is a great place to organize, like actually, right, with leaders of groups to say, look, this is how we're going to do this. And the lawsuit gives you something to work towards and to promote, right? Look, the judiciary is deciding on whether or not it is even constitutional to carve out certain protections for baby girls and not all children, which of course it's not. It's very clear in the Constitution. You can't give one sex certain protections and not the other, right? So if you're just protecting one sex of children from genital cutting, well, why aren't you protecting all of them? That's the argument. It's pretty obvious, and it's pretty correct. It's pretty obviously correct, right? When I was in law school at Georgetown, I was like the boy who lived, right? Because Harvard tried to cancel me big time, and they failed. But anyway, the people were like, "Oh shit, you survived." I was like, "Yeah, we're reputation intact, and now we're becoming a hotshot lawyer." Right? But anyway, the reality is, there was a lot of polarizing around me. Either people really supported me or they didn't, but they weren't going to be publicly in opposition because you look really stupid to be pro-circumcision in a group of intelligent people, right? Because it is an indefensible position to want to mutilate infants to conform to your aesthetic preferences, or because, my God told me I need to cut up this baby. It's profoundly stupid. So anyway, so let's continue with the comments. 455 Buick, we need to show our representatives the disgusting mutilation pictures when we talk to them. Okay, well, here's the issue with that. You're probably going to isolate them, and the representative may associate you with the bloody, screaming baby. And that's that's why it's good to be friendly. And when you're showing them this, obvious gruesome imagery, they are going to be a little taken aback. When I first learned of circumcision, I thought it was the most awkward, uncomfortable, strange thing to exist. Totally, totally. Anyone who wants to screenshot some religious stuff, religious quotes about this, here you go. I'm not going to read these right now. Eric, do you think that intactivist groups should work more closely together? Of course, I was saying before to your comment, Yo Mama. That is one of the purpose of Intact Global's conference, March 29 to 31, is we're going to start organizing our resources, and that means our different organizations as well. So anyway, let's so I think it can be done. Maddie, great to see you again. Peter Adler's in StreamYard. The American Academy of Pediatrics says circumcision can cost up to $1,750 each. That is nuts. So with 3,000 times 1,750, that is, let's see, how many zeros is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's $5.5 million a day. That is, let's see, that's a lot of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's almost $2 billion, right? 3,000 circumcisions a day at $1,750 for 365 days. That's $1.9 billion in just circumcision costs. Right now, not all of them cost $1,750, but a lot of them horribly maim the child. Well, all of them maim the child, but some really cut off part of the glands or do serious bleeding or infection, and then you have to spend a whole bunch more money trying to keep the baby alive, right? Or repair the horribly mangled remains. So, the 10% of circumcisions that go wrong might have 200% additional costs, because then it becomes this even extensive kind of surgery that spins out. So that's some quick circumcision math for you. Was your circumcision done for religious reasons? I think it was like a family, that's what we do. But a lot of Jews, I grew up with Reform, they do it, they don't really have a good understanding of the religious significance, right? Because the real Jewish circumcision, you cut off the foreskin with your fingernails and you suck on the bleeding penis. And, you say, that's not what you do. But I'm telling you, for 90+% of the history, it was only in the 1840s where we really moved away from that as a Jewish people. So it's actually recent that we stopped sucking on the organ after we cut it, which is obviously super messed up. And, it's where a lot of anti-Semitism comes from. It's oh, you mean the group of people who mutilate infants and suck on their penises? Not good PR, not a good look, right? So yeah, mine was just Reform. Most Jews are Reform in America, and they don't really know what the history is and how totally messed up it was and remains. But it used to be even more messed up. 2007, Sarah Bush Hospital was sued and lost after botched infant genital mutilation. Family won $1.15 million to CAPS, $1 million from hospital, $500 OBGYN. Well, I would rather have my penis. I mean, what is $1.5 million? That baby is horribly maimed for life. So, and it's not like they won. They got some, recovery because they've been harmed so horribly. Doctors have no idea how big someone is going to be. They have no business cutting anything off. 100% agree. So anyway, I had to practically beg my doctors in order for them to approve my hernia operation, but circumcisions on an infant where no illness or injury has occurred and approved immediately and paid for in cases, which is totally messed up. And we're fighting that, right? There's definitely, at least in New Hampshire, there's an active vote in the legislature, the state legislature, on defunding this. And there will probably be lawsuits. I don't know about my law firm. Intact Global is probably going to focus on equal protection theories, but there will be lawsuits on just greenlighting these surgeries without a medical need, right? That would be called fraud, because as a doctor, you will have what's called a fiduciary duty to the patient. It's the highest duty that the law imposes on one individual to another, and it means you have to act in the interest of the person you're serving. As a lawyer, I have fiduciary duties to my clients. As doctors, you have fiduciary duties to your patients, right? And so if you're a doctor and you are harming an infant, you are performing a surgery that's medically unnecessary, that harms him, it's traumatic to cut off a baby's foreskin and then it harms her for the rest of his life. You are harming the infant, and you are doing so, and you're getting paid, $500 a pop. You are breaching the trust that that patient has in you, or the patient's parents, to enrich yourself. It is, in my opinion, should be a reason to jeopardize or lose your medical license. Now, just because it's common doesn't mean it's okay. And the law actually has imposed liability on things that are very common before, because judges say, yeah, it might have been common, but it's still wrong and you can't do it. And circumcision of infants is definitely one of those things. And I think we need some more legal victories before we fight that. I'd be happy to fight it now, but I've got limited resources. So we got to pick our battles wisely. All right. So again, these live streams, we're hitting an hour in. I'm going to try to get through some of the last comments. I see there's about 129 of them. It's not going to happen. I'm just telling you right now. Right, I've been working like a dog for a long time on this big trial I have coming up, which again, maybe we bankroll the whole movement. Say, look, I end genital mutilation in 2 years with $10 million. I really think I could. But I'm unlikely to walk away with that from this trial, but maybe a good chunk of it. So anyway, so yeah, definitely check out the clickable link for the conference. Here it is. You could also go to intact.global/conference. As Gregory Malchek says, it's insane and deviant to consider the aesthetic, right? It's like, what? I like the genitals of this infant child to conform to what I prefer is totally messed up and bizarre. So totally agree with you, Greg. Are you still affiliated with 4Gen? No, I wasn't back in 2018 before I did my play. From my understanding, they're not really, intactivisty. So they didn't really want to, get into that debate, which is fine. They supported the, they helped fund part of the play, which was great. Potts, Level, I'm sorry, Eric. I feel like this is because I covered you in the news today. I did not see, this is my first time. I'm not even on YouTube right now. So no shot against you, Potts. But what was I going to say? I'm on StreamYard, so it goes on a bunch of different platforms, which is great. But I haven't even looked at YouTube or social media, and I have to post like an Instagram reel after this, and then I'm stopping work for the day. So I will check it out though. I usually get a little Google notification when there's a story on me. So I appreciate it. Keep it up. If you're promoting me, Potts, then or at least the conference, then hell yeah. And I hope you make it, and I hope you don't tell anyone who you are. Chicken Farm, did you leave Judaism? I like to think that I'm on the forefront of Judaism, and I speak for many, many Jews when I say it is time for us to leave circumcision behind. It harms children, it harms Jewish children, and I can confidently speak for many, many other Jews, like practically the whole religion, but certainly a good chunk of us, that we are going to stop cutting up our babies at birth. I could say that with absolute confidence. And if you're a fellow Jew like me, trust me, you're going to join me and we're going to stop mutilating our children, right? So no, I didn't leave Judaism. I'm on the forefront of Judaism with my fellow Jews, and together we're going to stop mutilating our children. Right. So I hope that answers your question, Chicken Farm. But yeah, and if you need any Jewish voices on media, well, I volunteer. Right. God damn. Is there any chance? Is there any science associating circumcision with any mental disorders? This would be a good argument if proven. Well, it's a great hypothesis. It's definitely traumatic, and trauma definitely tends to lead to worse outcomes. But studying the detrimental effects of circumcision has been kind of a, let's say, third rail in academia for a while. It could jeopardize funding and professional reputations. I know I got kicked out of Harvard doing this, which again, fine. But and so I definitely would encourage it. If the movement had some serious funding, we could fund researchers to look at correlations and causation effects of being genitally cut. I saw some research paper where you look at, I think it was like 95% of genocides occur with one two cultures of the genocide being genital mutilation cultures, which, if you look at genocide as a form of mass murder, right, or mass psychosis, you could say, well, genital mutilation is definitely on that category, in that it is a massive group of people engaging in heinous activity together, right? And so, I would believe that definitely, there's definitely some strong correlation now. But we're going to need some serious research funding, or at least some researchers to look into this. Eric Klopper, did you have anxiety before you first spoke up against circumcision? Definitely, dude. I was not like this comfortable. You just got to talk about it for a while. And then people are like, okay, if you're comfortable, people will pick up on your comfort, and vice versa. If you're uncomfortable, then people will pick up on your discomfort. So Alan, again, good to see you. I was wondering if you had heard of Brit Shalom, a non-Jewish baby welcoming ceremony, and how you work through the religious cultural trauma, part of it as well as the physical trauma. Definitely heard of Brit Shalom. Means the covenant of peace. Shalom, peace. Brit, covenant, right? I'm super supportive of Brit Shalom. It also doesn't discriminate on the basis of sex, and it doesn't require mutilating and bleeding an infant to satiate any, purported deity. So, it's definitely, I think, if you connect with whoever the parent is, to say, look, I want what's best for you and your child, and so let me tell you about this this new, let's say, you could say ritual or tradition, I should say is a better word, that is really in the best interest of the child and the religion and in your reputation, right? Because at a certain point, if you're advocating for the genital mutilation of children, your reputation is going to take a hit. But there's some good research on epigenetics. I believe it's like the experiences of your ancestors will affect how you behave. Is that, yeah? The study of changes in organisms caused by modification of gene expression rather than alteration of the genetic code itself, epigenetics. And so if your ancestors have experienced serious trauma, like some of my Jewish ancestors, then you'll have different genes express themselves in your offspring, right? And they have good research on rats as well. Like if you starve rats or eat rats, those rat offspring are different, like not in a helpful way, right? Maybe they're prepared for that type of world. And so if you genocide a people, and obviously my Jewish people have didn't have a really, how should I say, they drew the short straw about 80 years ago. That can mess up your children, and not just because you come from this traumatic, your parents have experienced severe trauma, but literally the gene expression. Like you may be more neurotic. Oh, people are out to get me, right? And obviously that was the case 80 years ago. But what it can do is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is now you engage in behaviors that make people not like you, like being distrusting and assuming that everyone's out to get you, and then that makes you unpleasant to be around, right? And so that's a real thing. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of trauma associated with it, but I've never been really, I've never been accused. No one ever told me that I should be a therapist or some type of, let's say, caregiving position. I'm much more, I'm much more forward and assertive is the best adjectives. Blunt and abrasive or other adjectives that you could use. So, I'm not the right person to ask this question. And Maddie is thanking me for my daily diligence. Well, you're welcome. I'm going to do my best. I am working very hard, the law firm and other stuff. A parent who cares about what their son's penis looks like and modifies it makes me feel uncomfortable. Totally. And as Peter Adler said, very generous of Eric to consider financing anti-circ litigation with earnings from other suits. Thank you. Look, if I'm not saying I'm going to win my trial after the conference, but if I do, and it takes me, a few months to make, many millions of dollars, then like I'm happy to do it. Like, let's go, baby. That's not that long. I mean, I'm working very hard every day, both, obviously promoting this conference, but also on my trial that's coming up. And so, but if you can make that type of cash, because I'm actually like, I'm a great litigator, right? I'm good at what I do. And so if it doesn't take that long to take that amount of cash, and I think that with that amount of cash, you could pretty much end the genital mutilation of children. It's a good investment, right? The universe will pay it back, no problem. So again, we'll see. I mean, I don't want to bankroll the whole thing. This is an international human rights movement. I think that we could do it together, internet. But we're going to do it. Right? I am committed. I'm a happy man. I don't need that much more. Eric, keep up the great work, making the world a better place. Where we actually do that is at the conference. So again, that's the purpose of these streams. Attend the conference, Intact Global's conference, right? March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. You can get your ticket here. I'm going to paste it in the chat below. Very easy URL. Here it is, Intact Global/conference. So definitely go to that. That's a URL. I know that it doesn't look like one, but it is. Go there, get your ticket, and I look forward to meeting you and the other lawyers and leaders, and the committed intactivists. We're going to strategize. We're going to make a plan. We're going to execute. And at the end, we're going to sue Oregon. So it's like, okay, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of our like final legal challenge, right? And I'm not saying Oregon's final, but this is the final strategy. We're in the end gate. Like my generation, millennials, we're not going to, let's say, defer to the boomers who allowed genital mutilation to literally infect this country. It is a mind virus to literally say everyone mutilate their infant. It's totally cool. Not cool. It's actually horrifically evil, and we're going to stop it. So anyway, let's see. Failed to make it look like a URL. Well, look, it's easy. It's easy. I take issue with that, hee-haw. It is Intact Global Conference. How much easier could it be? Intact.global/conference. So yes, it's a URL. You could also go to the long one. Have you ever watched the anti-circumcision video from Leo Milgram from Denmark? I've never even heard of Leo Milgram. So no, but happy to look it up. Not right now because I have more work to do and then I need to go to sleep. So not today. I agree, Vask. It's an exciting time. I watched a bris ceremony online. The women were in a separate room where the men and boys surrounded the infant. Very uncomfortable. Yeah, it is super bizarre. It's like, okay, let's all get around the infant and watch as one guy cuts off a part of his penis. So, he's missing the same part that we are, right? It's super uncomfortable and creepy. And, I could throw a whole bunch of negative adjectives. Oh, okay. Yeah. And I'm getting a little, we're going to stay above a certain line here. But Eric, there are plenty of papers on academia.edu that show correlations of circumcision with mental disorders. And if this was a full-time gig for me, I could every day I could say, okay, we're going to go through this and we're going to go through that. Leo Milgram is part of the anti-circumcision activist movement in Denmark, which is not surprising because Denmark, like 80% of Danes want to make it illegal, right? So, and somehow America was able to thwart that. And Jumby is back. Great to see you, Jumby. He has the best image, great energy. He's just a fixture of this live stream, and we'll remember you, Jumby. And as Vass says, screw the boomers, totally. I mean, except the boomers who are on our side, but I think as a whole, their generation kind of let this totally get out of control. And good morning to you, Ian Crowley, which reminds me, good night to me. So definitely go to this link if you're on the stream. Thank you again for all joining. I appreciate you tuning in. intend to do this tomorrow. I'm 5 for 5. I think we could keep this up. So have a great night, everybody. And my last pitch, go to this URL, get your ticket. I look forward to meeting you in Portland and for us making history in filing the first constitutional challenge to end the genital cutting of baby boys on constitutional equal protection grounds. So have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. Probably about the same time. And, at a certain point, I might publicize the time earlier, but I'm still catching up with work, but we're going to get there. So I'll see you at the conference and I'll see you tomorrow.